350-foot crater opened overnight in Winter Park, Florida, swallowing a house, a swimming pool, and 5 Porsches before anyone could react. That was 1981. That was inland. Now, Florida's coastline itself is collapsing. Sinkholes hundreds of feet wide are consuming entire beaches, and what's silently dissolving beneath the surface suggests the worst ground failures haven't even begun. On the evening of May 8, 1981, a quiet intersection in Winter Park, Florida, became the center of national attention as the ground began to move. A depression formed near Denning Drive and Fairbanks Avenue, drawing curious neighbors and emergency crews. By morning, the opening had swallowed a 3-bedroom home, a section of the city's public swimming pool, and 5 Porsches from a nearby dealership. The crater kept widening, eventually measuring about 350 feet across and 40 feet deep. Local police and firefighters cordoned off the area as the earth groaned and concrete cracked, while television crews broadcast live updates of the monster crater consuming the neighborhood. Residents reported a low, distant rumble and the sharp scent of sulfur drifting from the pit. No injuries were recorded, but the financial toll reached $4 million. The city stabilized the site with sand, concrete, and monitoring wells, and over time, the sinkhole became a pond, Lake Rose, named after the homeowner who lost everything. Dr. Mark McGuire, a University of Florida geologist, described the event as a textbook example of what happens when Florida's limestone foundation gives way. The 1981 collapse didn't just make headlines, it remains a reference point for every sinkhole that has shaken the state since. Late on February 28, 2013, a quiet house in Seffner, Florida, became the site of a tragedy that would haunt the state's memory. Jeff Bush, 37, had gone to bed as usual. Without warning, the ground beneath his bedroom gave way. The collapse tore open the floor, sending Jeff and everything in the room into a hidden void. His brother Jeremy, jolted awake by a deep, unnatural rumble, rushed to the doorway and found only darkness where the bedroom had been. Jeremy leapt in, digging desperately with his hands, calling out for Jeff as the earth continued to shift. First responders arrived within minutes, shutting off the power and attempting a rescue, but the unstable ground forced them to withdraw. The house was condemned and soon demolished. Jeff's body was never recovered. The Bush family lost not only their home, but a brother and son to a disaster that arrived without warning. In the weeks that followed, neighbors watched as the property was fenced off and filled, a scar in the middle of their street. The Seffner collapse became a grim reminder that in Florida, the ground beneath familiar places can vanish in an instant, leaving families searching for answers and for loved ones who cannot be brought back. Sinkholes once arrived without warning, but now the ground beneath Florida is less of a mystery. Dr. Susan Rogers, a geotechnical engineer, explains how sonar, LiDAR, and INSAR have transformed the search for hidden voids. Multi-beam sonar, originally designed for shipwrecks, now maps underwater caverns off the coast. In 2023, sonar revealed a 7-meter-wide cavity under Santa Rosa Beach, prompting officials to close the area and begin sand replenishment within 3 days. Airborne LiDAR, sweeping over central Florida, detected more than 300 subtle depressions, some just half a meter deep, across thousands of square kilometers. Most lined up with known sinkholes, but several exposed voids never before recorded. These discoveries led county officials to halt construction on dozens of vulnerable sites, redirecting development away from unstable ground. From orbit, INSAR satellites scanned for ground shifts. In Hernando County, INSAR detected land sinking at over 4 millimeters per year, more than double the state's action threshold. Within 48 hours, crews closed a highway and found a sinkhole forming beneath the asphalt. The response time, from satellite alert to road closure, was just 2 days. Now, these technologies are built into emergency protocols. When LiDAR or INSAR flags a risk, county engineers can act before disaster unfolds. False alarms remain rare, less than 10% for LiDAR, 8% for INSAR, and none for sonar in recent panhandle surveys. Each tool covers a different layer: seafloor, land, or subtle shifts, creating a new defense against Florida's unpredictable ground. For the first time, the state can map danger as it emerges, offering a measure of control in a landscape shaped by uncertainty. A sudden depression in the ground rarely happens without warning, but the signs are easy to miss if you don't know what to look for. In neighborhoods built over Florida's porous limestone, the first clue can be water that looks wrong, an unexpected muddy slurry bubbling up through a crack in the driveway or along a sandy stretch of beach. The water might be tinged with orange or brown, carrying fine clay and silt from deep below, pushed upward as the ground shifts. Residents sometimes notice a sharp, sulfur-like odor, a byproduct of ancient organic material released as the limestone dissolves. Another early signal is subtle movement, barely perceptible tremors that feel more like the vibration of distant traffic than an earthquake. Seismic stations across Florida have recorded micro-tremors as low as magnitude 0.5 to 0.8, often just minutes or hours before a collapse. These tiny bursts of ground motion are caused by rock fracturing or the sudden collapse of an underground cavity roof. In some cases, witnesses have described a low, distant rumble or a faint metallic clang echoing through the foundation just before the surface gives way. On coastal stretches, beachgoers have reported patches of sand that feel soft or spongy underfoot, sometimes accompanied by shallow pools of cloudy water collecting in new depressions. These surface changes can be the final warning before a larger collapse. In recent years, satellite and sensor data have confirmed that sinkholes are often preceded by weeks or months of slow ground movement, sometimes as little as 4 millimeters per year, but enough to trigger alerts for engineers who monitor these zones. The combination of muddy, discolored water, strange odors, and subtle tremors forms a pattern that, when recognized, can prompt timely evacuations and prevent tragedy. In a state where the ground is always shifting, these warning signs offer the first line of defense against sudden disaster. Evacuation orders arrive without warning. When a sinkhole opens near homes or beaches, sheriff's deputies and emergency managers go door to door, telling families to leave behind everything but essentials. In the 2017 Land O'Lakes collapse, 12 homes were cleared in a single morning, and residents watched from the sidewalk as their belongings disappeared into the ground. Temporary shelters fill quickly, and some families spend weeks in borrowed rooms or hotel suites, unsure if they'll ever return. Many learn that their homeowner's insurance won't cover the damage. Since 2010, most policies in Florida have excluded ground collapse in high-risk areas, citing the unpredictability and scale of losses. Letters from insurance companies reference specific clauses, often leaving homeowners to shoulder repair or relocation costs themselves. Martin County's planning office, facing a surge in detected subsurface voids, adopted strict building code amendments in 2021. Now, every new beachfront project must undergo a geotechnical survey before permits are issued. The ordinance passed after testimony from state geologists and drew fierce opposition from builders and insurers who warned it would slow development and drive up costs. Other counties, like Pinellas, have resisted similar measures, arguing that tighter rules could stifle tourism and real estate growth. For families on Florida's shifting coast, the debate over policy is not abstract. Each evacuation, each denied claim, and each condemned home makes the risk personal, and leaves many demanding lasting solutions. Georgia's coastline has started to show the same troubling signals that have haunted Florida for decades. In 2018, a sudden depression opened up beneath a parking lot on St. Simon's Island, forcing a temporary road closure and drawing attention from local officials who had never seen such rapid ground loss so close to the shore. 2 years later, a minor dune collapse in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, brought the issue further north, while in 2021, a sandspit breach in North Carolina's Outer Banks required an emergency beach rebuilding project by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. While these events have not always been formally classified as sinkholes, each one underscores the growing vulnerability of the Atlantic coastal plain. The limestone platform that underlies Florida does not stop at the state line. Dr. Mark Maguire, returning to the discussion, points out that the same carbonate bedrock stretches beneath Georgia and South Carolina, creating similar conditions for subsidence. Rising sea levels and saltwater intrusion are not unique to Florida. They threaten the stability of coastlines all along the southeast. State tourism boards in Georgia and South Carolina have begun to factor sinkhole risk into their development guidelines, and major insurers now require hazard disclosures for properties within half a mile of mapped void zones. The pattern is clear. As sea levels rise and development continues, the risks extend far beyond Florida. The science is well established, but the response remains uneven. Some counties have introduced mandatory subsurface surveys before construction, while others have yet to act. For communities built on shifting ground, the next step is not just awareness, but action, demanding better mapping, stronger building codes, and a willingness to adapt before the ground beneath another coastal neighborhood simply vanishes. Florida's shoreline isn't just eroding, it's vanishing beneath our feet. As sea levels rise and storms intensify, hidden risks threaten homes, infrastructure, and entire communities. The ground may look solid, but certainty here is an illusion. Tomorrow's coastline is anything but guaranteed. Share your thoughts below.